time's up. Let's do this.
We're in for a wild.
Welcome everyone to episode 234 of Born to Be Wild, a wild Hearthstone podcast where we have fun, hang out with friends, talking about the wild format of Hearthstone, and spotlighting members of the wild community. I'm your host, Hydralisk. It's great to be back on this beautiful Friday evening here in beautiful British Columbia. I am joined by my fellow host, Schmoopydady. How you doing?
I'm wearing a hat.
For those of you joining us for the first time, welcome aboard. We record this podcast live every Friday evening at twitch.tv/borntobewildhs, and the video version of this podcast is then posted to YouTube shortly thereafter. Audio versions are also distributed to all podcast apps. However you are watching, listening, or absorbing via osmosis this podcast today, thank you. Yes, you.
Content plug, Schmoopydady. Before we get into the main topic of the show tonight, I'd like to say a quick thank you to the patrons of our show. Your support means the world to us. If you enjoy this content, please like, subscribe, and comment on this video on YouTube. Another simple way to support the show is to leave a review on your podcast platform of choice. If you're watching live on Twitch, we've got some awesome emotes that you can unlock by subscribing to the channel. This is free if you use Amazon Prime. Finally, if you'd like to support the show financially, you can join our Patreon for as little as $1 per month. We have some channels in the Discord that are unlocked by subscribing to the Patreon, where you can see the show coming together each week. Check it out. If you'd like to interact with us personally, please join our Discord, a free and amazing online community of friends from all across the world who love talking about Wild Hearthstone. Links to all of this stuff and more, including our merch, can be found on our website, which is www.borntobewildhs.com. Hydra, how's your week?
My week was not too bad. Jump into my little king corner. I had mentioned the last show that I was reading Gerald's Game. I managed to completely finish that. And then it has like a sister book that is Dolores Claiborne. They basically kind of happen at the same time. No spoilers here, but I'm doing the audiobook for Dolores Claiborne, and right before the show, I tried to finish. I went for a 6-kilometer walk, and I have like 28 minutes left in the audiobook. I wanted
Is
to
that
be
why you
able
took
to...
the walk? You were just like, let me go read a book. And so you put your headphones on and just started walking?
And then I realized that I didn't have enough time, and so I like, you know how you could do like 1.5x speed or whatever on the audiobook. I'm like, I gotta up the speed because I normally listen. I like to get the inflection and everything out of the narrator, but I was like, oh gosh, I'm not gonna finish before the show. I wanted to be able to say I completed it, but alas, it did not happen. I had walked for 6 kilometers and I still didn't finish, but it's basically a win, right? Like I'll finish it tomorrow. So,
yeah, you don't have to rush this. You don't need to rush this process.
I know, but you know me. I've got this goal of every year that I have to read more books than the last, and I've been going up. I did like 27, then 31, then 33 or whatever. It's slowly going up. So I didn't have a very good start to the year, but I got these 2 down and another one. So I think I'm at 3 already, 3 novels for the year. So I'm lagging a little behind, but
it's more than 2.
It is. Thanks, buddy. But outside of my king corner, I played a lot of Warcraft Rumble this week, and because they have had a ridiculous amount of events where it's up to 3 events at the same time, Schmoopydady. So you know how like we will have one event with a rewards track to do like a certain thing. You'll have daily quests, complete the rewards. They will have up to 3 at a time. It's been madness, and you feel like you need to log in constantly and complete all these quests, and they're not just like super simple. It's like play PvP with this specific card this many times, and then then do all these adventures with this other card and everything, and it's quite time consuming. And then it became like radio silence recently. The newest event is just log in every day.
Oh.
Yeah, so the event right now is just log in.
Oh no!
And then you get something, and it's kind of funny.
That's a little spooky, right? Any word about if they're gonna, or is it like?
No, I think it's just maybe they were going too hard, and I don't know the reason, but they didn't have this many events before. It's just like a bit of a break, I suppose. And it's something, though. You log in and you get something every day. So I'll take it. And then, though they do have the Molten Core thing back. So and they've extended it. So normally when Molten Core is around, you can do it for only a week. But they do it 2 weeks. Now you have, like, as a window to do Molten Core and kill Rag. So hoping maybe Blister Guy and I can align our schedules. I've been talking about this for months, right? How like it just never worked out that we could beat Ragnaros.
This is the time.
This is the time.
The time is now. We shall beat the Molten Core surely this time.
You hear me, Ray? This is the time. But Hearthstone wise, I have been playing some aggro priest, as I do. I like to play stuff with pirates and stuff in it. And
I saw you going 30, huh? Going 30, going low to the ground, flat earth style.
I like it. So this is more of like a burn list, right? Like I normally I'm a proponent of having ships cannons, and I like doing that kind of stuff and being more pirate heavy. But this is just let's shoot things in the face as much as possible, right? And I like it. So currently sitting with a 77% win rate, 33-10, 77%. I think is respectable. So
you're doing fine.
Yeah. I don't see a reason to switch up what I'm doing. I do, like I said, I see people running ships cannons. That's what I used to love doing. And the people I'm running into are playing that card. Like no one seems to be playing the more burn package that I'm running into. I'm not going to switch, even though I love that style of gameplay. This just seems to be working out.
I think it's never cannons. I think if you go anywhere, I think you try an updated 40 list at some point. Yeah, because you'll find you won't be missing too much. But this list looks fairly clean.
Dude, Papercraft Angel is so broken.
Disgusting.
I love that card.
It's disgusting. It's an amazing 2-drop. It was a terrible 3. Well, not a terrible 3-drop, but it was like kind of negative tempo at 3. At 2, it's like, ugh.
Yeah. No, if you can get that on board, sometimes I'll even coin it out to like if I am on the coin and someone else goes first, I'll coin it out just to get my free hero power and have a 2/3 on the board, and then I can make a pirate turn next. And that seems to be working out quite well.
Yeah,
so.
No, I mean, I think one of the cards we are cutting now, if we go to 40, is we actually, in 40 cards, we don't run Raised Dead because the stats have looked so bad because half the time it's just getting you a patches back, right? But
that can happen.
Yeah, but like at this point, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's how I feel. Definitely. So enough about me. How was your week?
So the one surprise that we got this week was Schmoopy found himself losing a tooth. One of his bottom teeth. He's just like, I don't know, it's wiggling, and then I just took it out. It's like, oh, okay. So he got a visit from the tooth fairy, and so that was good. We shored up his medication a little bit this week. We matched it with his morning dose, and he's having a great time. He's every day since that has taken effect, he has he has now gotten an exemplary, like he is a model student. He's one of the kids that we want the other kids to work towards being like, from the teacher, which has been really good. Because he's been starting to he's a growing kid, and when you are taking medication and it helps him with his impulse control. As he's growing, he's already a large kid for his size. Like he's like up to my elbow, and dude's gonna be 7 soon. He's a 6-year-old that's up to my elbow. Like he's a big kid, and he's all muscle. So it's like as he's growing, his medication dose has to grow with him, and so like we have to look for signs. Where is it too little? Is it too much? And kind of keep him at that happy medium where like it's allowed him to be him. So it's been a big positive. So that's been pretty cool. But recently, the teacher's been like, he's been a little hard to handle in the afternoon. He gets a smart mouth. It's like, that's true. That's true. So, but it's been all good news so far. And he got to lose a tooth. So he's like, yay! Like, how many teeth do you really get to lose in your life? Don't answer that question. There's an actual number, but I can't count on it in fingers and toes. So I don't really want to talk about it.
Does he like hockey? Because
does he like hockey? He loses them quicker. I don't know. I haven't tried it. He really likes soccer. He really, really likes soccer. But unfortunately, I've been coaching soccer, but the practice that I'd be coaching for him, he couldn't. It'd be too late for him. Like he couldn't do it. He couldn't hang in that long. Like his meds would be dropping off and all sorts of stuff. But he'll be all right. It's going well. Things are going well on that end. Right now on stream, what I'm doing is plumbing the depths of Wild. I did an old schmoopy, and I conceded to about 6 down from the bottom on the Wild Legend ladder until I was convinced I was like queuing into silver players. It is so hard now to figure out where you are on the Legend ladder. It used to be very easy to tell before they changed how the MMR for matchmaking works. You used to know, like, used to watch yourself, like, go down through the layers. So you're like, oh, I'm in gold now. Oh, I'm in platinum now. Oh, I'm at, like, diamond 10 now. And I deranked really hard, and then, like, as you're going up, it's really funny because sometimes you're hitting people in like Diamond 2. And the reality is that is somebody who has reached Diamond 2 on 7x multiplier. So like you're playing against somebody who's 7x, but you're like playing them when they're on Diamond 2. But the rank says Diamond 2. And then you'll get up to like 10x multiplier, right? But you'll like, somebody has just started their climb and they're in like Bronze 5. So you'll randomly queue into like a Bronze 5. Literally somebody who like, they're just started their climb, and chat's like, you're picking on Bronze 5 players, and meanwhile they're playing like a meta Shadow Priest deck. I'm like, guys, you don't know what you're talking about anymore. I actually feel like I've lost something in that experience where I enjoyed being able to see like where I was on the ladder and what people were playing and what the style of play was, and I feel like that's gone now. I'm not getting that experience back. It's like I'm playing against worse players playing goofy stuff, but it's a mystery where I am until I'm not. Like, until I start seeing Libram Paladins, it's like, oh, right, okay, these are people that know what they're doing, or at least they're bots. Like, like something, there's a sea change at some point, but it's a lot more subtle than it was, than like the micro adjustments you could watch happen individually, which is an experience I'm going to miss personally. But what it is. So that's what I've mostly been doing on my stream, is like slowly clawing my way back up and being like, no deck is too dog water in order for me to play it, and playing some real jank and still winning a lot of games, because holy cow. Again, when you have fundamentals and you have experience, you can still sort of skill difference people even if your deck is like absolute trash. So that is always a fun experience to get to play that. The last fun thing I did this week that's Hearthstone related is I hit Legend and Standard with Weapon Rogue. I don't always have the attention span or the will or the want to hit Legend and Standard. Some months I get up to Diamond 2 and I'm just like, I don't want to play a single game more of this format because I just don't enjoy it.
That's my life in Standard.
Yeah, I think you like Weapon Rogue because I think it would remind you of old Kingsbane. Like, so it's funny. The first 3 turns of Weapon Rogue, I think, are just about the most basic that could possibly happen. which I think is great for somebody who doesn't really know anything about the standard format. It's always like, do you have the 1 mana spell that draws do you have Dig for Treasure, which draws a pirate from your deck, and or draws a minion from your deck, and if it's a pirate, get a coin. You only run 2 minions. They're pirates. So like it's like, okay, great, cool. So like you that's your tutor. If you don't get your Sword Shiner in the mulligan, like you're always playing the same thing on 1. I'm either always hero powering on 2, or I'm getting the quick pick down. Ideally, you mulligan, you get the quick pick. Then you Sword Shiner on 3. And like from there, it really takes off as far as like, well, when do you use prep? When do you buff? When do you hold something back because you anticipate taunts coming into the deck? How many taunts do you play around? How much face damage do you put in? Do you swing now or do you swing later because you have this buff on? Like the old decisions that we used to make pretty regularly before we were just spamming buffs on Kingsbane, if you know what I mean. Like those old soft skills were absolutely on display in this deck, and it was like it felt like I was playing Darkmoon Fair Kingsbane again. And anybody who ever played me in Darkmoon Fair on Kingsbane, like that's not a good experience for them. Like I loved that deck. I learned that deck watching Martian get high ranks with it, and watching Smudge stream her legend climb with it. Just like I learned from really disgusting players how to kind of play that style. And even I was even getting some compliments from some of the standard players in the chat. They're like, man, I think you're playing this deck better than I do. I usually just point face. And I was agonizing on some. I've got a 9 attack weapon there at 15 health, and I'm agonizing on some turns whether or not to take the swing or not, because of the different implications of, okay, I can get them closer on burn, but I'm anticipating this taunt. I might need the extra charge. Like, it was just a lot of fun. And it brought me back, and it was cool to hit legend with it. And I actually hit legend on stream. It was a 3-hour climb from D3 2 stars up. And so in the show notes, I included the YouTube link to my personal YouTube where I recorded that section. I didn't do any editing. I didn't do any like, here's the losses, let's cut them out, let's throw in the wins. The videos with losses tend to do worse for gameplay because people want to watch wins. They don't want to watch losses. They want to not do any of the work, but also get a little buzz when you win, because like if you watch somebody win, you also get the sensation of winning. So loss videos don't tend to do well, but I like showing like full climbs so that you see like everything that happened. And I had to learn from a couple of my losses too, which was really good. So that was really the main event of what went down.
Nice. For my week. Now, we got a lot of news.
Let's get into it.
Welcome to the news. The news is so good.
All right. So, yesterday, we got a tweet by Play Hearthstone that said, "Welcome to the year of the Raptor," and just had some 4 points that stated new core set, which we know that's going to happen, standard rotation. There's going to be the expansion kickoff info and much, much more. And then they had the cinematic trailer, which was really cool because people was it like the last expansion that we didn't have one, and people are like kind of choked that we didn't have like a really cool like song and everything that we used to have.
Yeah, and like people, like the community loves them. The community does like tier lists and like rates them and like gets into heated discussions about about like which trailers are the best. Like I've seen at least 2 of them, and like they almost always end in fisticuffs. It's really intense. So like, yeah, this means a lot to the community, and it feels like the game is alive and is doing well when we're getting cinematic trailers for expansions. Like those are things that you can, concrete things you can point to being like, they don't need to do this, but they're doing it and we love it. And like, I don't know, it's a lot. It's a big part of the culture, I feel like.
Yeah, I think so too. And so props to the team for doing that. I've only watched it once. I meant to watch it another time before the show started.
I watched it on mute.
It's the worst idea. There was a good song. You're going to have to listen to it after. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And I don't know, props to the team for doing it. But it's like right after or a couple hours after, we ended up getting another tweet from Play Hearthstone with a link, but it said, learn more about the Year of the Raptor, core set updates, and in-game event details, and more. So if you followed that link, you got to be able to get to see, what's coming next. So as a broad overview, 3 major expansions, mini sets, and battleground seasons will shape Hearthstone in 2025 as a priority, was a statement that was made. So it seems very clear as to where they're sort of putting, their assets into, their efforts into. There will be some arena stuff, but it seems to me like it's a message, right?
Arena's getting like a whole new overhaul. And again, I think they went into more of that when they did that preview video.
Yeah. And yeah, we'll get into that as well. Bit.
Yeah, I mean, like that, but like that seems like it, like that's not, I think, something that you necessarily can just sort of brush off. Either the fact that like it's one of the oldest, it's very popular, but it's a largely unchanged game mode. And I was nervous, like, okay, well, like, are you killing the golden goose changing this thing? And it sounds like all the changes that they want to implement are actually ones that the arena community has been asking for years.
Yeah. No, I agree. And so there is going to be the arena update, which will be launching soon to refresh gameplay. And they plan to attract new players with this. So whatever they're doing, they seem to think that new players are going to be really excited about it. There's also going to be an esports expansion with Chinese competitors returning, which is really cool. There's going to be new cosmetics, including the mythic skins, signature cards. So just more of that kind of thing. And the introduction of pets is coming. So that's a basic overview. The Year of the Raptor begins next week, bringing fresh content and gameplay. So we are going to get a new game event coming in.
Players can complete an event track to earn rewards, including the Great Dark Beyond epic cards, cards and card packs from Into the Emerald Dream, and a new Raptor Herald card. This is immediately playable and staying in standard until
2026.
No details on what the Raptor is supposed to be, other than, do we get a little peek at stats? It's a 3-mana 4/2, aggressively statted. We'll see what it's supposed to do. And more details are to be revealed next week.
So if it's only staying around for 1 year, do they think it's broken already?
Probably.
Probably.
Probably. Hearth's that way too. They're getting rid of Hearth upon rotation. Hearth is going to go straight to Wild. It's not going to stick around, right? Like that's one of those cards, right? So, and the gifts too. So like there's some precedent for this. So like they want this to stick around as like a flavor card. They don't want it to, they don't want it to be around in, let's say, the next 4-set meta being so strong that it's messing with the flavor of the next expansion. I think that's a smart way to do things.
Yeah. So if we go back and look at this new event, so it looks like at the first stage, you get the card right away, the regular version of the card. And then you'll get the normie. Then you get an Emerald Dream pack. And then
you get a dream. Then it's a couple of rares from Great Dark Beyond, so that's good, and another pack. Listen, at this point in the expansion, like, you're probably missing a couple of rares. If you've been playing Arena, if you've been sort of grinding the set out, you didn't, pre-order anything, you just sort of been like trucking along. Like, getting a couple epics towards the end of the expansion is really nice for just sort of capping stuff off.
Yeah. So, and then in the end, you'll end up getting a new hero skin and the golden version of the Raptor Herald. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm imagining it's a beast. It's a dino, but I guess there's
it's
no
gotta
guarantee.
be it's
It's gotta be.
you would think. So we'll see. And it's an epic,
What is
but
it, Hero?
obviously you get that for free. So that's cool. I would assume that it's gonna be pretty cool. Next, we have the Year of the Raptor evolving game board. So we were told before that we're only going to get one game board per year going forward instead of one per expansion. So the new game board is going to be launching with the new Emerald Dream. However, it is an evolving game board. It's going to be, appearing more frequently like game boards do. It represents all 3 expansions per year. However, the lighting, the music, and other elements are going to change with each expansion. So it's going to be sort of the same board, but it's going to be ever evolving throughout the year.
When this eventually rotates, I imagine the way it'll work in Wild is it will randomly be one of the states that it was throughout one of the 3 expansions. So,
Yeah.
the nice thing about this is the way this is packaged is functionally, if that's the case, then you're looking at one game board that's essentially 3 game boards. So like how it's programmed might be one game board, but the way we end up interacting with it is we get 3 flavors. Functionally, we still get 3 game boards. It's just we're getting them in a different way, packaged slightly differently, which I think it seems kind of elegant and like a good way to do things as long as it's not too bugged. Copium. It's never bugged ever. Nope.
You know how there's always like the funny, cool things like you do with Skullmance, like let the stairs drop, like that kind of thing.
I have learned that sequence to drop the stairs no less than 5 times and forgotten it every single frickin' time. The part of my brain that's supposed to hold that information, there's a hole in there from playing Wild. So it just falls right through. I have to relearn every single frickin' time.
You fell down the stairs in the Skullmance Academy, and you're just at the bottom.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah. I could see you not remembering it.
It
looks like it's pretty far to fall.
It is.
Yeah. So that's cool. I think that maybe, who knows if there'll be more than one secret throughout the expansions, if they're going to add different secrets per expansion. I don't know, but it's the evolving board, which is pretty awesome. I like it.
It's cool. I think it's a good way to do it.
I'm one of the people that enjoys those things. We do have 3 cards that they did show that have been created for the new core set. Schmoopydady. Do you mind telling us about Poison Breath I gotta say this. Falric? And Babbling Bookcase?
Sure. So Poison Breath is a Death Knight spell. It's a rare. There are no runes attached to the spell. Give a friendly undead poisonous. So immediately Wild perks up and says, do we have another dread scale situation on our hand? Maybe. It's not as easily tutored as we can in other sets and in other classes. Like, for example, in Hunter, with the new Discover package, it's you have so many options to go and find what you want to find, especially when we have Selective Breeder to go get Dread Scale, especially since we have Nayeli now to change our hero power to 1 mana tracking. It's a lot easier to dig through your deck and find your Serpent Bloom. There's no accident that this expansion has made, you could argue, due to some statistics, low sample size, that Hunter might have at least one, maybe a couple tier 1 decks in Wild that nobody's playing. Because of going out and being able to search the cards that it needs to search and then having this one-sided board clear. Now we can slap this puppy on a Wild Pyromancer, and you've got yourself, we have Dreadscale at home, which is kind of cool, but it's Death Knight, so the draw sucks, and the tutoring's almost non-existent, And so, like, there's a couple of options. Yes, we have Darkthorn. We have Darkthorn Quilter actually as well. But unfortunately, chat, I don't think Darkthorn Quilter is gonna make it in this scenario. I think it's like Pyromancer or bust. But like Death Knight, the draw is so suspect. It's really hard to make this workable in a way where it's coherent and regular and something that you're going to see a lot. But it's a funny thing it's a funny package you can throw in Reno for now and see if it happens and if it works out. Also, we considered slapping this on Explosive Ghoul, or Unstable Ghoul, so you can enjoy that as well as a possible 4-mana. Like, maybe it clears the board, who knows? But it does Poison Face, I believe. Doesn't Unstable go there? So
Poison Face.
So look at that, Wild Pyromancer. I saw the look on your face, Hydra. You're like, Wild Pyromancer still getting out there. Let's go.
Yep. Played with that card quite a bit in the past.
But interesting point is once Pyromancer triggers, it's going to poison itself probably. So that's going to be fun to watch. You actually only ever get one proc from it.
Oh, because it damages all
and you
minions.
generate a corpse, which is good because, like, your Death Knight, you need the corpses. Speaking of corpses, Falric looks really good. This is a brand new legendary. It is a 2 Unholy Rune card. You gain twice as many corpses than normal. Battlecry, draw a card that spends corpses. So you can tutor something that spends corpses. If you wanted to, I was going to say you could like tutor your Corpsicles in like a burn deck to make sure you get your hands on them. You could play like double Unholy and a Frost. That seems like a very viable option here that you might want to do. That's just off the top of my head. People are agreeing just in general. You gain twice as many corpses than normal. They fight over the wording. The wording is weird. The wording to that sentence makes the greater Reddit community grumpy. But the effect is very strong. And the fact that we're drawing something and tutoring that is going to make use of using corpses is very strong.
As long as this is on the board, twice as many.
It is a 2/4. Like, it's a 3-mana 2/4. You don't really remove 2/4s easily. And it's funny how many of these minions we keep printing that are like 3-mana 2/4s, like 3-mana 2/5s with Brood Queen, like large butts. It's like, this thing is not going to die easily anytime soon. And you're playing this alongside probably a lot of spells that like give you corpses. So, I don't know. Good looking card. That'll see competitive play. At least in standard. In wild, we'll do something weird with it, but who knows if that's going to be good. Well, like this can technically tutor your grave strength. Like you could manipulate it so that like this actually does something funny and like tutors your I win card. But like it's gonna take some cooking. It's gonna take some cooking
or some time. Like there could be other things, down the road.
I think so.
That you're drawing the exact card that you need. Never ever discount a tutor card, right?
Right. The effect might be immaterial. Like you might just run it for the tutor because a 3-mana 2/4 draw a card very specifically. Like that's just good, right? Like you like that can stand the test of time in wild, where we're not playing it in good decks because Reno Death Knight is not a good deck, but it's got Renathal. So it's at least tier 3. So you could see how it goes from there.
Yeah.
The last card in question was Babbling Bookcase, and that is a 3-mana 2/4 battle cry. Add 2 random mage spells to your hand. This looks like a total meme. However, the children, as much as the children yearn for the mines, Hearthstone players yearn for the random, especially if they're playing Casino Mage. So, like, this is immediately going in a billion Casino Mage decks, and we'll have some fun with it, I think.
It's a great throwback to the World Championship being won by Babbling Book. A cool way to look back and do it again. So
yeah, I wonder what it's gonna say. I want to cast a spell. I wonder if it's. I wonder what like.
Do you
how
want
do they
all
top
the spells?
that?
I'll give you all the spells.
They've also buffed Babbling Bookcase at this point, right? Like, isn't it a 1 mana 2/1? It used to be like a 1 mana 1/1 or something like that.
I think they did, but it's cool. It's good throwback. Why not? It also has a somewhat decent stat line, right? A 2/4 again. I don't think it's...
I mean, like, it's a battle cry. It doesn't do anything once it hits the board, like, other than, like, add value to your hand. But at the same time, like, some people just love value cards. And, like, they're going to look at this and be like, the value, chat. But the value. So they're going to run it.
It's obviously a standard card. This is not a wild card. You don't want, like, random wild spells, I don't think.
In Mage, they're not so bad.
I mean, Mage is broken, I guess.
In Mage, they're really not so... I keep making that point with people. Like, I keep winning games on stream with Casino Mage. I'm like, guys, we could kind of discover in Wild. Like, it's kind of goofy how far down the rabbit hole you go, and everything's, like, discounting mana the whole way. So, like, I've paid 3 mana. I've seen 4 cards.
I guess my point was, upon rotation, there's a very small card pool in standard, so you kind of know a little more what you're gonna get.
Right,
so
you have a little
more consistent, right?
Arena too. I could see this to the same point. Like, if the spell pool is very small but strong in Arena, this could actually be a better than decent Arena card, because you're always getting a certain tool when you cast it. So that's a really good point. Is that, like, actually, it's specifying the class and then you reducing the discover pools might make it good. I actually hate when that happens to cards, because if we're selling Wild, it's a place where you can play your Wild card, you can play your cards and get that same experience. It's a great example of just, like, you're never getting that same experience ever again unless they bring it back as a twist or something, right? Because, like, the discover pool is never going to be the same as it was. That, like, this card is going to be, if it's busted in Arena, because it always gets you, I don't know, it always gets you extra copies of what's that 4 mana spell that gets you 4 armor and 2 skelly men? You know what I'm talking about. Cold Case?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, it always gets you Cold Case. Like, okay, but, like, you can't then bring it to Wild and then play it and then always get Cold Case. So the experience is going to feel a lot different. I was recently in a discussion today in Marshy Chord over, like, a Reno Druid list, and somebody was just like, man, Resizing Pouch is a good card, but Wild has too many cards in it. And it's like, that sounds like a bad card to me, right? Like, Resizing Pouch used to be on certain manas in Standard would get you certain outcomes that you could expect. If you used it, you wanted to get a 10-drop, you could get more of the Yashara, the Corruptor or whatever, so you could get more corrupt things, or you could get more Yogs. Like, there are certain outcomes that you could guarantee using it on certain mana, and you said, okay, I'm likely to find one of these hits. You bring that to Wild, and, like, that experience is completely gone. So I hate when that actually happens. So I'm hoping it's actually just, like, RNG BS from jump, so that nobody is disappointed when this rotates at some point. But maybe that's, like, me being selfish, denying somebody getting, like, infinite Cold Cases. I don't know. So we're getting a lot of cards that are rotating out of the core set and stuff that's rotating into the core set, with, like, some subtle buffs attached to it that it didn't necessarily have before. I know the ones that people are really have focused on, because there's some silly stuff. There's some silly stuff that you wouldn't necessarily have figured. Like, they're taking where is it? SI agent. Which SI agent is that? No, that's not a good one. They're taking Sneeds, right? Like, they're taking the Sneeds Shredder, and they're shaving a mana off it. Now it's no longer an 8-drop, it's a 7-drop, right? They gave Karn Taunt. They gave the Black Knight tradable. Like, these aren't going to burn the house down. They added a health to Mukla. The way I would describe a lot of these buffs is it feels a lot like a twist style buff, where it's like, oh, we've got a new twist season coming. Let's change these cards slightly so that they're more competitive, and that kind of gives you an idea of where we're at. Netherspite Historian. Let's give it an extra attack. Yeah, sure, okay, right. Are you serious? I can't use Silver Vanguard with Sneeds now. No, you can't do that anymore, unfortunately.
Rip.
But there are some cards where I think the buffs are actually relevant. It's not going to be Finja as a 3/5. Sorry, that's not going to end it. Though, I think a 3/5 Finja would have gone pretty hard back in the day. The first major buff for me that ends up making a difference, that jumps off the map, and it's going to sound a little funny, a little tertiary, is things that we change in Wild. One of the things you always have to look at when the core set changes is, how does it change Zeph? Because a lot of these cards that we add from core, and like old cards that Zeph is still offering. And so when you buff one of those old cards, you're actually buffing Zeph. And one of the cards that changes that is first worth noticing is Natalie Celine. This used to be an 8-mana 8/1 that had the battle cry, select an enemy minion, destroy it, and gain its health, right?
Yeah.
Which is a powerful removal effect, right? It's powerful removal, it's powerful tempo. It was an 8-mana card, and it was usually vying for, no, I really want to go get Jiraxis. So on, with 8 mana left, I'd play my Zeph, and if there's a big target on the board, there's a chance Jiraxis wouldn't be offered, and instead I'd be stuck with picking Natalie Celine. I don't know if that's going to happen as often anymore. In fact, my hope against hope is, if I'm going to go into a 7-mana turn, instead of Zeph offering me Temple Enforcer, we might end up seeing Natalie Celine coming down instead. That we might see her offered. Moving her up a mana takes her out of the 8 slot and means that the 7 slot is a little less crowded and a little bit more niche. I'm interested to see how Zeph ends up changing in the late game, where maybe it makes Jiraxis a little bit more consistent. And also, maybe we get lucky and maybe we get, Tempo Enforcer a little bit less. Someone can hope, right? Someone can hope. The other one that jumps off the board to me, I'm saving the best one for last. The other one that jumps off to me is Prize Vendor ends up drawing a card for each player. It's a 2-mana 3/2 Murloc. But now it gains a Death Rattle to have the same effect. So now it's basically Cold Light Oracle, but slower, but you play it a turn earlier. That could be a card that's actually kind of relevant in some decks. And so keep an eye out for that, because that's a lot of card draw for a 2-mana 2/3. And if you're an aggro deck and you really don't care that your opponent is bothering to draw cards, and you just want to draw yourself, this gets better. So that's a cool card that I think we keep a look out for. The next one that I think is a blockbuster, though, this is the one that people kept talking about and want to continue to talk about. The Curator. Do you see what they did to the Curator? Spot the difference. Let's see if you can figure out the changes that they did to the Curator, because the Curator is the Curator's bustado now. How much mana did it cost?
7?
7. It's now 5.
Ha!
It's now 5. That's kind of cool. That's a very beefy taunt on turn 5 to draw you 3 cards. You're assuming, right? You're assuming. Now this is like an LPG card, right? So we were usually okay, let's get this for 1 and then tutor our best stuff. Cool. Here's the next cool thing. Did it used to have a tribe? True or false?
No, I don't believe it did.
It didn't. And wasn't that weren't we calling other things of similar constructs mechs? And so we would get into these fights with Goliath. We're like, Goliath, why isn't the Curator a mech? And Goliath would be like, I don't know what to tell you. It's sort of this weird, ugly middle ground where, is it a mech? Is it not a mech? We just sort of find ourselves sort of stuck in this morass of trying to figure out which ones are arcane constructs and which ones are mechs. Now that it's a mech, in our format, we can tutor that with Timeline Accelerator. We can make that sucker cost 3 on turn 4. So you can coin a Timeline Accelerator on 2 and drop a 4/6 taunt on 3 that draws 3 cards. That's something that you're gonna have to chunk through if you're an aggro deck. That is a hell of a card. So like this is
Yeah.
exciting, I think. Like this is a toy, this is a tool. They keep giving us these really cool cards. And this is a great example of they've already made so many cards, right? And a lot of them are trash. You can buff some of these and make some tweaks, and like maybe this is too busted, maybe this is too far in the other direction. Like this is like a Reddit-esque buff. If you showed me a Reddit or a fake Reddit article of like this is how I would change the curator, and like they made it 5 mana and gave it a mech tag, you'd be like, all right, sure, nerd, that'll happen, Lamau. And then like they've actually gone and done it. It's pretty cool. I don't know. What do you think, Hydra?
I think Heaven's Door now has an excuse to get Karazhan, which is pretty cool.
Oh yeah, it does. Isn't that interesting? It's adding value to an adventure that like a much maligned venture where we looked at it and we said, hey, you know, some of these cards don't hold up anymore, but there are some good cards in there, and that's a great point.
You could also just play chess forever in heroic mode and drive yourself crazy. So
that is a thing that you could choose to do.
Because Entresol in heroic mode of Karazhan is one of the worst things I've ever had to play in my life, over and over and over and over and over.
Yeah, I remember that. That sucked. You kind of have to get lucky. I think I just got lucky.
I think you have to get lucky. Yeah,
I think you have to get lucky. Very skill testing. Very skill testing. But yeah, no, like, I mean, we get some other buffs. Like, I keep joking, Fireplume Phoenix. One day, Fireplume Phoenix is going to have 99 attack and 99 health. It's just a matter of whether or not we can play until 2065 and like wait out on all the buffs that it's going to get. It like something like Fireplume Phoenix is now a 4 mana 3/4 and it deals 3 damage. Compare that to Lamplighter. Like it's just a joke, right? Like it's like some of these cards, they're twist like buffs. Let's add an extra health. Let's add an extra attack. Does it fundamentally change what the card is going to do? Not really. But the curator, prize vendor, and I think what was the last one? The first one I said. Where are you? Oh, Natalie Celine, just changing the Zeph pool. But the other two I think are significant, and I think are something to worth keeping an eye on.
Up next, we have the second announcement of the announcement, because I feel like we were announced this already. Sort of a place filler, but HS Esports is back and bigger in 2025. So, in short, Hearthstone Esports returns bigger this year, and it's aiming to inspire and entertain players worldwide. The competitive system will feature 2 seasonal championships and a world championship. A key focus is in engaging more players and fans in Hearthstone Esports. More details, including full competitive rules, will be shared soon. So it's a little bit more than what we were told in the past. Not like a lot more. They told us that we would, I think this was back in like a month ago. We were told we would know a little bit more. So this is, I guess, something.
Remember the gut punch people felt when Hearthstone was basically signaling, listen, we need to gut esports.
Yeah. Well, we were going to get Heroes of the Storm treatment.
Right. Like it was like, oh, well, I guess I'm done. I remember watching Hijo have this growing moment where he was like, I'm free. I don't have to play this game. I don't have to play this game anymore. I don't have to prove this to anyone. I don't have to qualify for anything. I can do whatever the hell I want. And so, like, away he went. And, like, him and a bunch of other people just decided, like, oh, I can realign my life priorities. And I think a big part of this is China opening up, right? Like having a new market, having that support, taking in that revenue has breathed new life into Hearthstone. And I think that sort of really stressful period where Microsoft takes over Blizzard and Microsoft is looking at like the Hearthstone team and is being like, all right, what are we changing? What are we not changing? We're cutting a bunch of people. Like, this is like positives. We're seeing stuff that was disappearing coming back as a trend. And it feels like we're moving towards strength. Could the 10-year anniversary have been a little bit more 10-year anniversary? I think absolutely. But I think I would say, like, if everything's going to be as sick as the mini set, and I think some of these ideas that they're putting out, like overhauling Arena, this morphing board, if it gets us functionally the same amount of content, but in a smarter package, like these are positives. Esports is huge. Like getting like people need to be playing, enjoying competitive and standard in order for Wild to be doing well. Like I love poaching Wild players, standard players for Wild. Like that's cool and all, but like if standard isn't healthy, no one's playing the game. So like we need all the modes doing well. And this is a big part of that. Like adding new competition. No word on whether or not the prize money is going to be split evenly amongst the extra competitions, though. That is the one thing that people are a little bit like, well, are we competing for like a bigger pot, or are we splitting up the same pot into smaller pieces? All the same, I think the last 2 years, Masters Tour and Worlds have done really well. Like as far as I know, like a ton of people watched Maxi win MTs, and I know Worlds did really well and were really popular. And again, you have a whole nother like market in China is now watching them, whereas like China might not have been watching before because Chinese players weren't technically allowed to qualify. So like I think this is nothing but like we're moving towards strength, and that's a good trend to be on.
Yeah. I love it. I love to see this uptick because you don't know, right? When there's an acquisition, things can go one way or it can go the other.
Yes. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. So speaking of the future, we did get an update on the roadmap. At least we knew a little bit about this, but a little more detailed in what is up in the more, I guess, recent future that we have. So the pre-release Tavern Brawl will return for the Emerald Dream and all 3 expansions this year, with improvements based on player feedback. I'm not exactly sure what those improvements could be, but the player feedback is nice. Do you have any idea, do you think, on anything that people suggested?
I think that initial early brawl leaned really heavily on old cards as opposed to new cards. And like, I don't know, the most dominant deck was Mech Warrior. And it was really dumb. And I kind of enjoy it. I got like 2 like 6-win runs with it like pretty easily on stream.
Nice.
Like, not stressed out, like just playing the deck naturally, being like, oh well, I'm just gonna do the thing. And I think I went like 6-1 and 6-2. I'm not a talented standard player. Like it was like, and I wasn't like studying the meta and like looking at the X's and the O's. I was like drooling buttons. I was drinking beer. I was taking chat song requests. Like I was not 1,000% focused on what was going on in front of me, and I was farming 6 wins. So I wonder if they're going to try and balance it a little bit better. Maybe they'll have a little bit more of it. Maybe they'll have like an initial balance patch after it first comes out to kind of like ban certain strategies to make it a little bit more of a free-for-all, or at least mix it up so that you have to cook a little bit more, or that like, oh, let's bring more new cards into the fore. I don't know. It's a hard balance to follow because like the whole point of the brawl in part is to go get the new cards in a new and interesting way using the resources you have, right? But you don't want all old cards dominating, but also it's not good if all the new cards are dominating too, because now you're talking about the people who just like can pre-order and play with their cards early have an advantage. So I don't know. It's I don't know what exactly they'll do, but I imagine it's something around that balancing aspect. And maybe the rewards. Maybe they buff the rewards. Remember, we said we were a little bit dicey on the rewards, and that like I would not base my content around it. Like if I wasn't like basically playing with house money when I was playing it, I would not have risked the resources that I was risking in order to do it. It was like 300 gold. I was like, nah, that's a little rich for my blood. I can do 2 arena runs with that. Maybe they made it more worth our while. Maybe they made it like a little bit more generous. I think that's only a positive if that's part of it.
So also we have patch 32.2 coming up. So this is the first major patch after Into the Emerald Dream. This is going to include sort of a regular Battlegrounds seasonal update, the big arena revamp that we've been talking about, and then the Into the Emerald Dream mini set, which is arriving one patch earlier than normal. So we're going to see a bit of adjustment coming up here with the timeline of things being released.
And I think that's to support, it's to support the greater game modes that I think that are getting released, right? Like that's what we're looking at.
Yeah, I think so. So the next expansion cycle is going to start earlier in patch 32.4 as part of like this long-term patch timing adjustment that they're doing.
They're just shifting stuff up. It looks X number of weeks, and then they're going to go back right to the same cadence. So like we're going to get a little bit of like a rush of cards. Honestly, like we're so close to Wild Christmas, what I call Wild Christmas, where we get Revert season and also new core set cards and also like new card expansion come out. Like Wild gets like a huge influx of new resources to cook with that can easily upend the meta. And the fact that we're going to get the mini set like an extra patch early is going to only kind of like add to that chaos. Like I think spring of this year is going to be, as long as nothing like breaks wild, copium. As long as nothing like totally breaks wild, if we get a sort of a similar situation to what we have now, where there's a lot of variety and there's a lot of skill in the meta, and there's a lot of different decks, and like we only have more new decks because they have like added more cards, like that could be really cool.
Oh yeah, oh totally, that'd be awesome. Also, pets, which have been sort of the talk of the town a little bit on the side.
You looking forward to a certain pet Hydra? Do you want a Hydralisk on your sideboard?
They'll probably not do a Hydralisk. They'll probably do a Zergling. If they're
You don't think they do a little Hydralisk this close to the mini? You don't want to hope for it. You don't want to hope. I see the look on your face. You don't want to be let down. That's what you don't want.
No, because they did. I can't remember. I think it was in Diablo 3. They gave you a Zergling. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat or anyone on YouTube. They did a Zergling, but oh my gosh, if they gave a Hydralisk, but you have to understand, we talked about the size of a Hydralisk. I don't know how much of a pet that is.
They'll make it a little mini one on the side. It's cute. Hey, little cute guy.
There's like massive Hydralisk on the side.
I've been hanging out a lot in some standard streams, and Linny is like, wait, I could get a little baby plush. I could get a little baby like crush on like as a pet on my sideboard. Like they'd be nuts not to do like a king plush or a king crush or something as like your pet on your sideboard, right? Like
this is their chance to cash in on all the king plushes that they didn't, like the physical ones that they didn't sell, right? They 100%. Can sell digital ones. And I don't want to quote them, but I do think maybe somewhere in the article they talked about other ways of obtaining them, the cosmetics. So I'm hoping that it's not all
cash your runestones.
Right.
I think they'll have some for events. Like I think like you'll have the free like earn them through the events. I think they do a really good job of that actually. I think they offer a lot of cosmetics on free tracks and free events now that if I were a free to play player and I was looking for a little bit of variety, I would feel like I'm still accruing things that break up my game experience. I think they actually do a really good job of that. And like I know it's not in my perspective because I've spent a fair amount of money in the game. Like ditto a cheap, like this is Born to Be Whale, right? Like so, like we've had a certain amount of involvement in the game where we've spent a certain amount of money on cosmetics, and like we see a cosmetic we like, we're gonna go get it. We're gonna have to. But yeah, I imagine we're gonna have some pets that are free on some sort of free event, right?
Yeah. Well, they'll have to be, and then they might find some ones that you got to buy, like when you're gonna buy a big carrigan. So like things like that will happen.
And that can be something, and like now you're working pets into like the mega bundles, right? It's like, oh, here's more added value. You get this exclusive pet. Like they're gonna have stuff. It's gonna be part of the package. I don't care about pets that much. That's like, don't take away value from my bundles, please. Please don't assume that's replacing anything, please. Dear God, no.
Take 20 cards out and give you an epic pet or like some ridiculous version of a pet, and you get less.
But
cards.
that might put some but having that pet present might be the breaking point for somebody where they're just like, you know what? Yeah, I'll spring for it, just because I'm getting this cosmetic along with it.
So as a quick rundown, if you're looking at the screen, have or have not seen the graphic, we do have the Emerald Dream, which is 32.0, which we will have in Season 10 of Battlegrounds. And then the mini set will come out, Druids of the Flame. Then 33.0 is the Shrouded City with Season 11 of Battlegrounds, and then mini set Festival of the Devil Sword. This is not a spoiler. This has been given out by Blizzard.
It's been given out. It's not been data mined.
Nope, they told us everything. So Heroes of Time will be the third expansion of the year. So Season 12 of Battlegrounds, and the final mini set of the year is The End of Time. How's this look to you? What do you think?
Looks good. I have a question in Unrelated Advice pertaining to the timeline, though.
Oh, okay. Well.
Unrelated Advice with Hydralisk.
All right. I'm going to have to change hats for this. How about chat? How about those of you audio listeners? You're going to get a little tinfoil ASMR.
Oh gosh, he brought tinfoil. He brought tinfoil. Looks good on you. Are you getting a perm or?
Hydra, I'm wearing tinfoil right now, so they can't read my thoughts at Blizzard. Okay.
Okay.
I don't know if you noticed this, but this is the first time we've gotten an entire year's theme laid out with names and dates and expansion names. They've told us everything that's going to happen for the next year. Okay, you following me? You see what's happening, Hydra?
I follow.
Okay, great. Okay, so here's the next important part, okay? The next important part is I need you to skip to the end of the year. At the end of the year, it says the mini set is...
I can't look at the rest.
The mini set says that it's the end of time. Hydra, I need your honest opinion here, because again, we listen, they can read your thoughts because you're not wearing tinfoil. Stupid, Hydra. That's a stupid move. But me, okay, I can ask this question, and Blizzard can't hear me telepathically. Do you think that the end of time is the end of Hearthstone 1 and the start of Hearthstone 2?
Yes. Just kidding, I don't. So what I think the end of time is... I think So also, where's my tinfoil hat? So I think that the end of time is a genius way to do this. I think that putting an entire year's worth of expansions and mini sets out and then putting the end of time is a great way to do some marketing. I think that putting the end of time at the end of this was the reason that you asked me this question, right? It makes people ask the question. The end of time. Is it Hearthstone 2? Is it the end of Hearthstone? What's going to happen? Something really, really cool may happen. But my theory is that the idea was to make us ask this question.
Wiser words were never spoken. You heard that on
Born to be wild.
Do you want a tinfoil hat?